The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Greetings, friends and one and all. Welcome aboard to the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show this week. I am your host, the Montyman, broadcasting to you and for you via the internet on take12radio.com on your internet dial. Also on the Bill Post Radio Network and the Graceful Living Networks all over the country. It is good to have you with us. I'm excited about today's show. We're going to do something a little different. I'm going to share with you a collection of some Meditorials, the Montyman's Meditorials. And in between those, we're going to play some recovery and positive music from recovery recording artists. Some of them you may recognize, some you may not. And it is always a pleasure to have those that are musicians doing the recovery music deal to share their experience, strength, and hope on our shows. And 99.9% of all the music we play, those artists have been on our shows, have been a guest on our show. And so it's a lot of fun. So I want to share some of that music with you and share some editorials with you at the same time. I want to start out with fixing others, the whole idea of fixing others. You know, we have those moments when we are completely convinced that we can fix someone and turn them into the person we want them to be, right? And this often starts out with good intentions, but invariably turns on us. And we begin a process of building a resentment towards those who seemingly will not change, right? You've been there. And though we know that God is the only one that can truly change a person's heart, we insist on coming to his rescue, as if he needed rescuing, and instead we get into his way, is what we do, right? And it causes me to ask the question: when are we ever going to learn, really, that we can't fix other people? Well, it's a continual learning process for me to master the art of not trying to control others. I don't know about you, but we must, as the Apostle Paul would say, die to ourselves daily. And I believe it is only when we place ourselves at the feet of our God that we begin to apply the true humility that is required to love another person. And isn't that what we're trying to do anyway, really, is to show our concern and love? It'll save us a lot of grief if we will learn to put aside our own expectations of people and wake up to the fact that we are powerless over the choices that they make. One of the most valuable lessons I ever learned in my own personal recovery was that I am powerless over other people's choices. You know, I can contribute to them. I can hinder them. I can make suggestions. I can encourage. I can discourage. But bottom line, when it comes down to the choices other people make, it's their choice. It's their decision. It's not mine. So when we learn to apply these principles in all our affairs, and those of you who are in 12-step recovery know what I'm talking about, the principles, the spiritual principles found in the 12 steps, it will always help us see each other through the eyes of a loving God rather than the eyes of our selfish, controlling nature, which is our tendency. So here's the thing. You know, if you do insist on attempting to control another person, I want to share with you the 12 steps to do so. But beware of the consequences, because it could drive you nuts. So if you're insisting on controlling others and fixing others, if you believe that that's your call, here are the 12 steps to do that. All right, you ready? All right, number 1. We admitted we were powerless over nothing. We could manage our lives perfectly, and we could manage those of anyone else that would allow it. That's step 1. Step 2, we came to believe that there was no power greater than ourselves, and the rest of the world was insane. See, some of you are listening on a network that promotes healthy living, hopefully, but you feel like the rest of the world has just gone nuts, right? Step 3, made a decision to have our loved ones and friends turn their wills and their lives over to our care. If you would just do it the way I'm instructing you to do it, if you just let me be in control, all would be well. Come on, you guys, you've experienced that, right? Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of everyone we knew. Step 5, admitted to the whole world at large the exact nature of their wrongs, right? Step 6, we're entirely ready to make others straighten up and do right. Because if you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do the next right thing, then you won't be in the mess you're in. Step 7, demanded others to either shape up or ship out. Make that demand, right? Step 8, made a list of anyone who had ever harmed us and became willing to go to any lengths to get even with each and every one of them. Step 9, got direct revenge on such people whenever possible, except when to do so would cost us our own lives, or at the very least, a jail sentence. Step 10, continued to take inventory of others, and when they were wrong, promptly and repeatedly told them about it. Some of you are nudging your person sitting next to you right now going, yeah, you do that. Step 11, sought through nagging to improve our relations with others as we couldn't understand them all, asking only that they knuckle under and do things our way. And step 12, having had a complete physical, emotional, and spiritual breakdown as a result of these steps, we tried to blame it on others and to get sympathy and pity in all our affairs. Right? Let me share a prayer with you. Dear God, as I sit here with my mind and heart focused on you, I receive your love in my life. I receive your forgiveness and grace. And let your spirit and all your attitudes flow through me so I may learn to become more aware of my own character defects and less critical of others. I now allow your spirit of compassion to reign in my acts of helpfulness. I listen for your direction and yours alone. So here's a song. All right, this is our first song for the show. This is a song, an old song by Amy Grant, that begs the listener, hey, it's very simple. Don't give up on me. You may try to control me. Don't do that. Just don't give up on me.
Don't
Don't give up on me. Listen, God is still working on me, right? I know he's still working on you too. Absolutely. Amen to that. Hey, listen, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, has got to be one of my favorite scripture verses of all time. It comes from Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. And, take a close look at this statement Jesus made. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So one might ask, who are they that the Lord is talking about here? Well, the answer to that is the poor in spirit. And who are these poor in spirit that the kingdom of heaven was made for? Well, my friends, it's those folks that find themselves at the bottom of the pit of life. I've been there. Some of you have too. It's those who struggle with their faith in God. It's those who strive to believe, but for whatever reason, find it so hard to grasp the grace of God. Well, in their own way, despite their lack of faith, they know deep inside that God is there and loves them very deeply. And when they find themselves at the bottom of the pit, at the end of a relapse, in the middle of divorce, the loss of their children, and all the other pains that strike us down, chew us up and spit us out, well, they, like ourselves, somehow seem to find the strength to cry out to God, don't we? And though we struggle in our ability to lean on Him, understand Him, and love Him, we still have the desire to find Him and experience His love. Well, these are the ones who, despite their frailties, refuse to give up. These are the poor in spirit, you and me. These people find that God speaks when we're struggling the most, it seems. And I'm finding that the poor in spirit are the people that the kingdom of heaven is specifically designed for. That scripture verse says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. There's going to be a lot of people in heaven. But I think it was specifically designed for the poor in spirit. Right? Heaven, the place where the flow of tears and heartbreak stop. The completion of our healing, the reward for all who turn their will and life over to the care of God. As He understands us, regardless of our lack of faith, our spirits that are poor and weak. Many folks will enter the kingdom of heaven, but again, I think it was specifically made for the poor in spirit, you and I. Wow, you know that is a powerful expression of God's love for us. Those of us who are in recovery have been through the ringer over and over again, haven't we? We have felt the pain of our own destructive behavior and have lived through the consequences. Some of us have made it, and some of us have not. But the truth is, all are loved and cherished by God. So if you struggle with your faith, if you find it hard to believe, try and remember the facts. You are blessed, and God's kingdom was created for you. When all is said and done, and we face our Maker, my question for you is, will you enter into the place of rest designed specifically for you? Don't miss out, my friend. Because the struggle we all live through day to day, one day at a time, will come to an end, and we will live at peace for all eternity. Ask the God of the AA founders, the God who is God, to make Himself real to you. He always comes through if we would only ask. I want to live like that, you guys. I want to live knowing, believing, and knowing deep in my heart that God will come through for me if I just but ask. He does. Here's Beth Champion Mason with her song, I Want to Live Like That.
from my mistakes. I wanna give back what I take. I wanna be there for my friends. I wanna always make amends. I wanna live like that. I wanna laugh right out loud. And I wanna make my mama proud. I wanna have the strength to cry. I wanna always wonder why. I wanna live like that. And I wanna love that way. I don't wanna be afraid. Open up my heart. Cherish every day. With every breath I take, I wanna live like that. I wanna be heard when I pray. I wanna slow dance in the rain. I wanna love and be loved back. Lose my way without a map. I wanna live like that. I wanna walk where things grow wild. And I wanna see my baby smile. I wanna grow old gracefully. Gather shells beside the sea. I wanna live like that. I wanna love that way. I don't wanna be afraid. Open up my heart. Cherish every day. With every breath I take. Ooh, I wanna live like that. I wanna love that way. I don't wanna be afraid. Open up my heart. Cherish every day. With every breath I take, I wanna live like that. Ooh, with every breath I take, I wanna live like that. I wanna live my life that way. I wanna love like that. I wanna live my life. I wanna love you that way. I wanna live like that.
You know, I've had a lot of mail lately from folks that say that others perceive them as way too critical. Excuse me. And because I don't know you personally, it makes it hard to determine if you are critical or not. However, what's important here is not what your friends think of you, but what you think of yourself. Critical people usually have a low opinion of themselves, or they think too highly of themselves. Have you ever heard of that phrase? I'm the type of person that tends to be an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. Well, people that are like that tend to be critical, right? Well, they lack a sense of reality of who they really are, because critical people tend to be very controlling. They do well as managers in the work field where they can direct people and be in charge. However, they tend to be perfectionists and are never satisfied with other people's accomplishments. Critical people rarely compliment others on their efforts, but pass judgment and give uninvited advice. Critical people can be very talented as well as stuck on themselves. They feel they are always one step above everyone else. They want the bigger house, the better car, and are very competitive. In fact, for too many of them, life is one big competition. In their defense, they tend to be very giving And they're good listeners. But watch out, they are always ready to solve your problems with a better plan than the one you have, right? Well, recently I ran into just such a person, a very good friend of mine, in fact. I had just completed a graphic design for a customer on the internet, and I showed it to him. Well, right off the bat, he was critical, pointing out what he felt was wrong with my design. In fact, he never said one nice thing about my creation. Today, that kind of thing rolls off my back. Now, one would think that with that kind of friend, who needs enemies, right? But in fact, my friend and I are very close. We accept each other just the way we are because we are friends. And that's what friends do. I don't know if you're a critical person, but we may want to listen to our own words when others share their successes or victories, their accomplishments, and their efforts. Look for the good in others and don't offer advice unless invited to do so. Be an encourager and a defender of your friends, and I'll bet they will see you in a different light. Oh, and never try to one-up them like so many try to do in certain circles, right? Meetings, church. It's not very nice. And it hurts friendships as well as discourages people that are new. Bottom line, let's not worry about others seeing your best intentions. Just give them the encouragement you would want from them and leave the advice in the dust. So here's my thought. Today, I will be sensitive to other people's feelings and values. I will strive to not intimidate anyone. Instead, I will make a concerted effort to discover the good in all people. I will be slow to criticize and quick to encourage. I will practice that age-old adage, if I can't say anything nice, I won't say anything at all. That is going to be a challenge for me because I tend to be overly opinionated. And I'll bet some of you do too. One of the key things in this is learning how to forgive yourself if you've been overly critical and learning how to forgive others of their wrongs. Here's John Bartle with his song, Forgiveness.
There are some fences that are awfully hard to mend, and there are some actions that are even harder to defend. You've been gone for half a lifetime, ain't it time that we were friends? It's all about forgiveness. It's all about love. There are some decisions much too painful to make, and there are some revisions we would trade for each and every mistake. But there is a cure for all the wounds from promises we break. It's all about forgiveness. It's all about love. It's all about forgiveness. It's all about love. Wherever you are, whatever you've done to me, I'm so sorry I could not forgive are awfully hard to mend. And there are some actions that are even harder to defend. And with all my heart, I'm telling you, you've long since made amends. It's all about forgiveness. It's all about love. I'm asking your forgiveness. I'm needing your love.
All right. Well, at the risk of giving away a resentment, which I'm about to do here, probably more than likely, I'm gonna speak forth anyway. In our recovery fellowships, particularly our 12-step secular recovery fellowships, we are told how important it is to develop a relationship with a higher power, and then we are told not to mention his name. In some circles, you're not even supposed to use the word God. Although this can be a source of frustration for many, let me reassure you that though we should use wisdom and understanding when sharing about our relationship with our higher power in meetings, we should nevertheless be very open and honest about such issues. Well, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous tells us that we should never apologize for our belief in our God or back down from our convictions. When we hide behind the don't offend rule, we cheat others out of our experience, our strength, and our hope. We become part of the problem and not the solution. Well, I share freely and openly about who my God is. His title is God. His name is Jesus. Bill Wilson, Dr. Bob, and the co-founders of AA did also without apology. The success rate in AA was in the high 90 percentile before we turned God into a generic term. Today's decline in success rates are caused by several different issues, but I have to wonder if turning God into a tree stump, light bulb, or even our own intellect doesn't have something to do with today's less than 3% recovery rate in Alcoholics Anonymous and other secular 12-step groups. All one has to do is take a look into where our country is headed to realize what happens when people take the God who is God out of the picture. So, yes, we use wisdom to guide our words. We ask God before every meeting and every engagement with another individual to bridle our tongue so as not to shoot ourselves in the foot. But we do not cower back from expressing what worked for us in regards to our God. If we do, we are practicing yet another half measure. We all know where half measures got us. They avail us absolutely nothing. Told you might get a resentment. Please don't get one. And if you're getting one, check this out. This is Music Dave with the Resentment Song.
I got some bad news. You see, I got a new landlord and he's got some new rules. He says you gotta be out by tonight, so don't you fuss, boy, and don't you fight. I know we going way back to grade school when you pulled down my swim trunks at the public pool. see my part in this is just holding on to a resentment that ought to be gone. Hey, old girlfriend, I got something to say. I got a new landlord and he's got a new way. He's cleaning house and he says you can't stay, no matter how much I'd be willing to pay. He seems to think that I need a new start since you've been gone for 10 years, but you're still breaking my heart. I guess this time it really is goodbye, 'cause no resentment's ever justified. It's only me that's been killing me by keeping all of this going on, making space for bad memories. Oh, never do you nothing but harm. Hey, old boss man, how you been? Yeah, I know I'm probably late again, but I've been talking to my landlord and he's being so kind. He'll give you exactly 30 seconds to get out of my mind. I know my attitude was always sick and tired, but this resentment is officially fired. Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to speak on my own behalf. I've been in council with my landlord and we've drawn up a new draft of your eviction notice. It's all there in black and white. Oh, sure, you used to piss me off, but now I've finally seen the light. You were just doing your duty and society a favor. I can't hate you over my bad behavior. It's only me that's been killing me by keeping all of this going on, making space for bad memories. Oh, never do you nothing but harm. Somebody's angry, they think this song ought to be over. It takes a lot of love and tolerance, though, if you want to stay sober. You may find yourself enduring some long-winded musician who's playing funky chords in alternate positions. Just see your part in this is holding on to a resentment that could be, resentment that should be, resentment that's gotta be gone.
Yes, we have a new landlord, and hopefully that landlord is God, and he's teaching us that resentments are like, drinking poison and waiting for the other guy to die, right? Yeah, that's a platitude, I know. What can I say? Hey, listen, after we chatted about resentments for a minute, let's talk about opposing points of view, right? Well, as long as there is more than one person on earth, there will always be disagreements. There will always be arguments and opposing viewpoints. If you're listening to this station, if you're listening to any of the networks this show is on, you have probably come across some opinions that you didn't agree with. Well, sometimes the subject matter is of grave importance, but most often, a disagreement, whether heated or calm, is over a matter that doesn't amount to much more than a hill of beans. So why do we throw verbiage around like daggers? I mean, is it really that important that we change the other person's point of view? I wonder if some of this stems from our own insecurities, requiring other people to agree with us in order for us to be okay with ourselves. It falls under the unreasonable expectations category. I love the way my friend Dr. Alan Berger describes it. There are unenforceable rules we place on people. I wonder what your unenforceable rules are that you place on others. I know some of mine, and really when I think about it, they're kind of laughable. Well, trying to enforce my expectations on other people never produces the desired outcome, ever. I will always be left lacking in some area when I try to make you line up with my agenda. When we treat each other with demands and insistence, we miss out on the wonderful variety of personalities God has blessed us with in the creation of His children. The truth is, as long as there is more than one of us, there will be opposing points of view. Perhaps, if we took the time to consider what the other person has to say, we just might mature a little and experience something brand new. I like new, and I'll bet you do too. So, if you want to be lonely, here's what you can do. Just demand to be right all the time. Here's my good friend, Brian Duncan.
If you wanna be lonely, just be right all the time. Take your own advice only, and then just stand in this line. Let me tell you something. It don't start no argument. You know I know I'm right. And things I think you should have learned by now. Woo! You don't make that face at me, 'cause you don't want that fight. 'Cause once you know, it's easy to know how. Just when you get a clue and think that you're no fool, life has this funny way taking you to school. If you wanna be lonely, if you wanna be lonely, oh yeah, just be right all the time. Sing it with me one time, good. Take your own advice only, and then just stand in this line. Come on, yeah. I try to compensate, but I've learned a thing or two, and it's harder now just putting up with you. Oh yeah. Just when you get a clue and think that you're no fool, life has this funny way of taking you to school. If you wanna be lonely, if you wanna be lonely, just be right all the time. Just be right all the time. Simple as that, baby. Take your own advice. Take your own advice only. Yeah. And then you stand in this line. Get longer all the time. If you wanna be lonely, just be right all the time. One more thing. Just when you get a clue and think that you're no fool, life has this funny way of taking your high to school. If you wanna be lonely, if you wanna be lonely, yeah, just be right all the time. Just be right all the time. I know I'm right. Take your own advice only. Take your own advice only. Oh, then just stand in this line. Then just stand in this line. Stand in this line. Yeah, be lonely. Hey, yeah, if you wanna be lonely. If you wanna be lonely. If you wanna be lonely. If you wanna be lonely.
Guaranteed to make you lonely. Be a right fighter all the time, right? Yes. Brian Duncan, I love that guy. Hey, listen, I continually encounter people who complain about their circumstances, their unhealthy ways of living, and how they would go to any length to change things if only there were a way. But I'm learning that in many cases, this is but the beginning of a long process of readiness God is preparing them for that will not always appear to be genuine. In fact, it can look very much like a bluff, because when presented with the solution to their dilemma, they flee, they take off. They don't show up. They won't take direction, and yet they continue to do the very things that they say they are so tired of. You know who I'm talking about. We've all been there. Well, because we want the best for people, this can be extremely frustrating for those of us who have been there and have come out the other side, especially when these very folks have come to us asking for help but never really follow through. Our tendency is to believe that they just don't care. Well, after wading through some of my own frustration this week with people who seemingly don't care, I truly believe that in most cases, not caring is really not the issue. They care all right, but because of their inability to move from detriment to dedicated, they are trapped and stuck in their own complacency. They would gladly walk the road we offer, but live in fear of the unknown and for whatever reason are blocked by the frightening reality of change. So, how can you and I be of maximum service to those paralyzed by the thought of moving forward? Well, I think one way is to stop trying to talk people into saving their own lives. It can't be done. When we do this, we tend to build resentments, which leads us right back to our old thinking that if they would just shape up and fly right, all will be well. Remember how we started this show with the topic of trying to fix others? Well, it's so easy to forget that none of us fly right. Next, people need to know that when they are truly ready to take direction, we will still be there to help guide the way. And third, I think it's important to ask ourselves the question, if and when their eyes are opened, what will they see? Will they see us as frustrated, angry friends who threw up our hands in disgust and gave up on them? Or will they see a friendly face that regardless of their lack of dedication to their own success, we waited patiently for them? We waited for them to walk through the door of willingness. If they see the latter, they will experience the support and love many of us did when we were finally ready to acknowledge we weren't ready to change or to engage. So, do you know people that are constantly in turmoil, complaining about their circumstances, and yet don't seem to want to take the steps so necessary to promote change? If so, allow me to encourage you, like God has challenged me this very week. It's all right to walk away from the door you have opened for them. You may even find that for your own sanity, you will have to close that door. But never, ever lock it. Let them know that when they are ready, they can freely walk through its arches into a new beginning where you will be there waiting with a smile on your face and open arms, prepared to trudge with them on the road to joyful and fulfilling destiny. Well, here's a great song. I just love this artist. Jerry Vandiver writes a song that is really surrounded around an old story. An old story about, people that are crying out for help, and the help is offered to them, but they ignore it. So if you know somebody that just seems to don't care and it's frustrating the heck out of you, I think you'll get a kick out of this song. And don't try to rub it in their face. Try to apply it to yourself, because I'm sure you'll be able to identify if you're really honest. Here's Jerry Vandiver with 2 boats and a helicopter.
Clouds started building one Sunday morning. The weatherman put out a flash flood warning. The preacher said all you gotta do is believe that God'll take care of you and me. And the water started rising. Monday ushered in a record storm. The water started coming through the church front door. The neighbor in a rowboat offered relief. The preacher said no thanks, God'll save me. And the water kept rising. The river still hadn't crested. The National Guard started Operation Rescue. Sent a motorboat up to Preacher Street. He waved them off saying God'll save me. And the water kept rising. Wednesday, preacher had the rooftop straddled. Chopper flew over and dropped down a ladder. Everybody saw it there on the TV. Just said, no, God'll save me. Now he's standing at the pearly gates, asking God why he didn't reward his faith. God replies that he made 3 offers. He said, I sent 2 boats and a helicopter. And the water stopped rising. The water stopped rising. Just stopped.
Jerry Vandiver. I love that song. All right. Well, let me give you some closing thoughts. Left to my own devices, I'm powerless over alcohol, narcotics, food, overspending, and the list goes on and on. Basically, I'm powerless over my selfish, self-seeking ways. In fact, the insanity and obsession over my addiction happens when I'm stone cold sober. Therefore, I need a power, not a human power, not 25, 100, or 50 human powers in a meeting, a church, or a retreat, but the power that comes from my Creator. Now, here's where I may lose some of you, but hear me out. I don't believe that there is any power in the 12 steps. Oh no, did he say that? Yes, I did. The steps show me my need for a power, and that power, according to most 12-step literature, is God. I need to die to myself daily and allow God to work and act through me. Well, having said all that, I got to tell you, It took some time and some real committed working of the recovery process and application and implementation of those 12 steps for me to realize my need. If I don't believe I have a need for God, why in the world would I seek Him out, right? Well, before recovery, I didn't think I had a need for God. I thought I could depend on others, the slogans on the walls, the daily reflections, and I was meeting dependent. In fact, I was church dependent. Today, even if I can't get to a meeting or even to church, God is with me and I with Him. But it's a daily renewing of my relationship with my Creator. No human power can relieve me from my powerlessness. None. Now, one does not have to agree with what I'm saying or even what's in the big book, but one cannot deny what is written within the pages of this wonderful basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous. The following is what I believe one of the most important pieces ever written in the history of recovery literature is, where it reads, "Alcohol, you can fill in any addiction." The chapter entitled How It Works in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it states, "So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without His aid. Many of us have moral and psychological convictions galore, but we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our selfish self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. That's the truth of it." Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's show. I really do. Let us know. Email us at take12radio@comcast.net. Until our next broadcast, this is the Montyman, and I'm wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
I'm calling a sponsor!